Let me do that.
Okay, done.
Okay. Hello, this is Geotech Politics, Rana from Toronto, and with me is Khurram Zubairi from Chicago, USA. We are here again on this episode, trying to connect the dots, as we usually say, connect the dots. तो हमारे जो पाकिस्तान में the audience who just woke up, so just wanted to update you guys real quick what this chaos is happening around us. So we have a few points which we'll quickly go through. Casey, again, you have seen this chaotic day, April 9, in USA, in North America. A mind-boggling, ज़हन को दिमाग, जिसे पाकिस्तानी टर्म में कहते हैं दिमाग की चटनी बनाना। सो दही की चटनी और दिमाग की चटनी बन गई है आपकी?
Yeah, I mean, people trying to find out like there's a method behind this madness, but I think there is a chaos theory. I think that's the best one. And obviously, if you throw a stone in the perfectly level lake, obviously it's going to create ripples. And I think that's the scenario. Like minute by minute, everything is changing. I was thinking I would just give it like about 6 months before the Trump actually is going to kind of reverse back or things going to stay down. It started to actually happen in 6 weeks. So that's the theory. But what can we say?
Yeah,
Anyhow, when we embark on every single point, then we can actually discuss more. So what do you have
absolutely.
on table?
Absolutely. So yeah, so you mentioned the madman. So let's dive into this philosophy, and this is not a new term. आपको शायद अच्छा, इसकी काफी ज्यादा टर्म्स देखी जा सकती हैं। आप इसको इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ले सकते हैं, गुड कॉप बैड कॉप वाली स्ट्रेटजी में भी पुट किया जा सकता है। और एक स्ट्रेटजी है मैडमैन थ्योरी, और ये इससे पहले ट्रम्प से पहले बाकी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन भी ये काम करते हैं। रिचर्ड निक्सन के दौर में भी ऐसी बात हुई कि चाइना को ये बताया गया कि रिचर्ड निक्सन इज अ मैड गाय, ही कैन डू एनीथिंग। सो इट्स काइंड ऑफ create the scare, scare people away कि एक बंदा पागल छूट गया है, पता नहीं कहाँ से जेल से छूट के भागा है, अब वो यहाँ is dangerous, right? So that's the theory कि Trump is the madman and people around him telling the world that be very careful, the madman is out there to get you. So the only way to be safe from the madman is to hide somewhere and do not retaliate. तो इस मैडमैन थियरी में अभी तक जो मुझे पैटर्न नजर आया है वो यही है कि दिस इज ऑल बाय डिजाइन। द कामनेस एंड जो ट्रम्प के अंदर एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के अंदर कामनेस रही है सारे दौर के दौरान, और लोग बाकी लोग they were rattling around him. What I can clearly see, I think Trump wants to bring the all the world except of course China. Now we can clearly see this pattern emerging. It is all about China. I think the focal point is China, and in my opinion, it looks like what I have seen observed that everything what happened was exactly to bring the world to this stage. Now, European countries are scared. All the others, Japan, South Korea, everybody is scared. Brazil and other countries, even a country like Madagascar, like, who only produce vanilla beans, they are scared how to balance this surplus. So this was done intentionally, and I think what is going to happen in next week or so, that every one of these countries will be sitting across Trump administration, trying to formalize and trying to agree, sign the agreement between US and that given country कि वो चाइना के जो डोमिनेशन है अभी तक मार्केट के अंदर उसको कैसे एलिमिनेट किया जाए, और डी डॉलराइजेशन ए जो ब्रिक्स फॉर्म हुआ है उससे कंट्रीज को कैसे साइन अप किया जाए एग्रीमेंट में कि दे विल नॉट पार्टिसिपेट इन दैट ब्रिक्स. ये आई थिंक दिस वाज द मैडमैन, दिस इज माय व्यू ऑफ द मैडमैन थियरी, that this was all planned to curtail China's influence and to curtail de-dollarization. I'll just stop there.
Yeah, okay. First of all, like we have to actually understand like what's the canvas. So you have to actually look at the chessboard. What's the chessboard is about? Then you can actually come and apply like several theories and whatnot. So from that perspective, I think the chessboard is very different than Nixon's time. अगर निक्सन के टाइम को अगर आप देखें, I don't know how many people are actually watching from the people who cannot actually understand, but sometimes we actually do and switch in Urdu. So apologies to those people if we actually switch on Urdu. So we have to actually understand the canvas is very different. At Nixon's time, you can say like, okay, USSR था, बाकी एक कोल्ड वॉर चल रही थी, प्रीवियसली उसकी कल्मिनेशन पॉइंट था, उसके बाद एक इंटरनल भी टर्मोइल था जो अंदर चल रहा था, जिसको निक्सन ने अल्टीमेटली had to bear the brunt of it, and Reagan continued with that Cold War. Now it's entirely different situation. China is not just simply like another superpower. It's economic power, and not just economic power, but it has an influence over like certain parts of the world. और वो इन्फ्लुएंस जो है वो बड़ा डिफरेंट किस्म का है. वो इस किस्म का इन्फ्लुएंस नहीं है कि उसके क्यूबा में मिसाइल लगे हुए हैं, या उसके क्या कहते हैं एक सर्टन जो कंट्रीज हैं उसके इर्द गिर्द की जो कंट्रीज हैं उसके ऊपर उसका एक इन्फ्लुएंस है और वो एक यूनियन बन गई है सोवियत यूनियन के नाम से. चाइना हैज़ अ वेरी डिफरेंट रोल यहाँ पर. तो अगर चाइना को आप टेक ऑन करते हैं तो, और एक और भी चीज़ ध्यान में रखने की है कि अगर आप फर्ज करें इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन जिसके ऊपर अगर फर्ज करें कोल्ड वॉर के अंदर जो मोस्ट हम देख सकते हैं कि कोल्ड वॉर के अंदर एक बिल्कुल सेगमेंटेशन थी. कहीं पर आपको ये चीज़ नज़र नहीं आएगी कि अच्छा जी यहाँ पे हम आपस में मिल रहे हैं, या कहीं पे कोई ट्रेड का एलिमेंट नहीं था, कोई मिलिट्री कंट्रीब्यूशन नहीं थी, कोई ये नहीं था कि कुछ हमारे लोग आपकी तरफ जा रहे हैं, हमारे उनके लोग आपकी तरफ जा रहे हैं. तो कोई इंटीग्रेशन किसी भी लेवल पे नहीं थी, तो आप ये जंग लड़ सकते हैं. यहाँ पे तो सिचुएशन ही बिल्कुल डिफरेंट है ना. यहाँ पे तो इस लेवल की इंटीग्रेशन है कि यार आपके इतना बड़ा आपका एक ट्रेडिंग पार्टनर है, आपकी मेजर जो बल्क ऑफ बाइंग है, अगर फर्ज करें इंपोर्ट्स के अंदर देखें तो जो टॉप 3 मोस्ट इंपोर्ट जहाँ से इंपोर्ट होती है उसके अंदर एक चाइना है. तो आपकी एक्चुअल में इकोनॉमी का क्या होगा यहाँ पे. तो इंटरनल इकोनॉमी के बड़े मूविंग पार्ट्स हैं. साउथ अमेरिका के ऊपर एक इन्फ्लुएंस है चाइना की, अफ्रीका के अंदर एक मेजर इन्फ्लुएंस है, फार ईस्ट के अंदर एक मेजर इन्फ्लुएंस है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर BRI की शक्ल के अंदर पूरे दुनिया के अंदर है. नाउ वी नो दैट फॉर अ फैक्ट के जो ट्रंप एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है उसके अंदर जो मेजर हॉक्स हैं वो चाइना हॉक्स है. तो ये तो हमें नज़र आ रहा था कि चाइना के हवाले से एक मेजर आपको देखने को मिलेगा जो लोग एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन जो है वो उस तरफ करेगी, लेकिन उसको एक ट्रेड वॉर के अंदर चेंज कर देना और उसको देखना कि यार कैसे होगा. चाइना की तरफ से मैसेजिंग तो आ गई है, आज ही आ गई है कि दे आर रेडी टू सिट ऑन द टेबल, लेकिन अभी सुबह देखते हैं कि यार ट्रंप की एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की तरफ से किस किस्म का, अगर वो ईरान के साथ बैठ सकते हैं तो चाइना के साथ भी बैठ सकते हैं. और अगर ये इंटेंट था तो क्या वो कन्वर्सेशन इस लेवल पे होगी कि अच्छा टैरिफ की हद तक रहेगी या फिर कहीं और भी एस्केलेट करेगी. क्योंकि उसका डायरेक्ट जो नतीजा निकला है वो क्या निकला है, वो ये नतीजा निकला है कि जापान जो 200 ईयर्स की हिस्ट्री है जिसके अंदर मतलब कट थ्रोट किस्म की और बहुत ही एक विशस हिस्ट्री है, वो एक नॉर्मलाइजेशन की तरफ चली गई है. साउथ कोरिया जो है वो चाइना के साथ बैठने के लिए तैयार हो गया है. तो यूएस इज एक्सक्लूडिंग इटसेल्फ. तो आप अगर सिर्फ इस थ्योरी के ऊपर बेस करें कि यार वो बुली अराउंड कर रहे हैं और उसके बाद अल्टीमेटली कहीं पे नेगोशिएशन हो जाएंगी, तो हो भी सकती हैं, लेकिन दिस इज अ डिफरेंट कैनवस ऑल टुगेदर if you apply that theory.
So let
That's
me be very clear. What you're saying, KZ, in negotiation, I mean, I am talking about this madman theory entails a negotiation with the world, right? और वो वर्ल्ड की, सो मेरे ख्याल से वर्ल्ड माइनस चाइना. So European Union, Japan, the Pacific countries, वो एक तरफ है और चाइना एक तरफ है. I think this is a very decisive point that Trump actually played very well, to be very honest. Today, if the way I am seeing this thing, the way the game looks like on the chessboard, it looks like that the game is well played. Now China is under pressure at this moment. Why it is under pressure? Because China retaliated very seriously to US very aggressively, keeping in view that the global powers, European Union, Canada, Mexico, all the other countries are retaliating as well, right? So actually, Canada started. Canada was one of the first countries. So given that all those countries sit down, and you are now standing with the gladiator in front of you in the arena, you thought you had 20 people around you. Now all those 20 people have been calmed down because the gladiator offered them, a partial victory. Now it's you and the gladiator, and you have to now get, hands to the shoulders. So what is why this is not the case in your view? Why,
या
why
यू हैव टू एक इसके अंदर एक और भी है ना पॉइंट, वो पॉइंट ये है कि along the lines, if you actually bully around, and then you are not actually kind of standing behind the back of that person who's going to be you are with your allies who are in a group bullying around, well, one person, then those people who are actually standing by you, and if you have bullied around in the past with them in a recent time, then they start to think that okay, it can be done to us. Now Canada already trying to find out ways to kind of build other links. Mark actually historically just 2 days ago came out and he said we're going to be actually building a coalition of friends other
yes.
than US. So why
the
Mark is saying that?
the
And I mean, he
only
historically has been the perfect guy who has got the European link. He's been the actual, Bank of England. He served Bank of England. He served Bank of Canada, and now he's going to be the prime minister. So all of a sudden, like you're looking at a scenario where Japan, South Korea, Canada, all these nations and Europeans, I'm just putting aside for a moment, because Macron has actually gone on to the extent where he said, told the French companies not to invest in US. So now, if this is just a one-way traffic to the China, um, for a moment, and it's day by day, hour by hour, the situation is changing. So then, what is the message you are giving to the rest of the world or the allies or historic allies that US is not a dependable partner? So that's also a very discreet message other countries are getting. So
yeah,
it's not going to be only China. And another thing you have to realize that, China is not something like with the USSR, where it had the hegemony built over the time. China doesn't have that kind of a hegemony in quote unquote terms. They have relationships with certain countries. So, for
he-
instance, if you look,
so just for the audience understanding, can you please explain the hedge money to the people so that लोगों को समझ में आ जाए कि ये क्या term हम use कर रहे हैं.
hegemony is in terms of you have the influence of certain countries and they are allied with you, like Canada historically since 1820s, for instance. It's never been a case that China went against US in any scenario. I mean, that was the last war which happened.
Canada did not go.
Canada I'm talking about. All of a sudden, like, this is a scenario where public to public, I mean, Canadians are saying like, we are not against you Americans, but what can we do? This is the guy you selected, so what can we do about this? So the same thing happened with France. France was historically, I mean, if you look at it, 9/11, they were like French fries, it was changed into freedom fries. All those kind of things happen. But at the same time, there are nations around the globe who's not going to be actually saying कि यार अच्छा हम अमेरिकन कैंप में हैं. हेजेमनी को if in a common terms if you could say कि अमेरिकन कैंप में है या चाइनीज कैंप में है. China never made a camp. So that's it's not exact parallel.
I see. So basically, what you are saying that China एक a different adversary, यूएस के लिए। प्रीवियसली हम यूएस और रशिया की एडवर्सरियल रिलेशनशिप को ऑब्जर्व कर चुके हैं। दोज वर डिफरेंट टाइम्स, डिफरेंट सेटिंग, डिफरेंट वर्ल्ड। अब जो एडवर्सरियल रिलेशनशिप ये ग्लोबल मार्केट में हमें ऑब्वियसली वेरी ऑब्वियस, चाइना वर्सेस यूएस। तो क्या ये बात आप इससे एग्री नहीं करते कि ये जो बाकी सारा फसाद है, यानी फसाद उर्दू वाला भी फसाद और इंग्लिश वाला भी फसाद एक ही जगह इकट्ठे हो गए हैं यहाँ पे, कि वो फसाद ये है कि बाकी कंट्रीज को डराया धमकाया जा रहा है कि हम आप पे टैरिफ लगाने लगे, आपका सरप्लस बहुत ज़्यादा है। और सरप्लस ज़्यादा होना कोई बुरी बात नहीं है। जैसे मैंने अभी एग्जांपल दी थी कि मेडागास्कर है, एक छोटे सा कंट्री है, उसमें सिर्फ वनीला बीन्स उगती हैं, दे सेंड इट टू यूएस। उसका जो सरप्लस है वो पता नहीं कितने, फ्यू मिलियन डॉलर्स है। तो वो क्या करें उसके बदले में, हाई टेक का क्या वो बोइंग के जेटन से खरीदें, क्या खरीदें ताकि वो नीला बीन का ऑफसेट क्लियर हो जाए। सो इट्स नॉट, डजंट मेक एनी सेंस। सो इन दैट रिगार्ड ये जो होल सारा ड्रामा खेला जा रहा है, और बड़े आराम से रोजाना बड़े कॉन्फिडेंटली मिस्टर ट्रम्प एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन बताते हैं कि नो जी ना, ये चीज़ चेंज नहीं होगी, ये टैरिफ्स पत्थर पे लकीर हैं, दे विल नॉट मूव। और अगले दिन ही पता चलता है कि वो
अगले दिन नहीं भाई, 2 घंटे में,
2 घंटे के
within
बाद
two
पता
hours.
चलता है कि वो टैरिफ उड़ा दी, उन्होंने उड़ा दी है। मेरे ख्याल से अब चाइना इज इन अ वेरी ऑकवर्ड प्लेस। नाउ दे हैव टू स्टैंड, जिसे कहते हैं ना कि अपने बलबूते पे खड़ा होना है। एंड ऑफ कोर्स चाइना इज नॉट रिलाइंग ऑन एनीबॉडी एल्स, बट होता है ना कि आप 20 लोग किसी बड़े जाइंट से लड़ रहे हो तो आपको एक ये होता है, सहारा होता है कि आप 20 लोग भी आपके साथ हैं। अब नाउ चाइना इज स्टैंडिंग इन फ्रंट, ऑल दो वी अंडरस्टैंड दिस पार्ट, कि जो ट्रम्प एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की मिस्टेक समझ में आती है वो ये है कि दे आर थिंकिंग दैट दे कंट्रोल दिस स्विच ऑन एंड ऑफ, बट व्हाट दे आर नॉट एबल टू फैथम कि अगली पार्टीज ने ऑल्टरनेटिव ढूंढने शुरू कर दिए। उन्होंने कहा कि यार लानत भेजो ऐसे रिलेशनशिप पे जिस पे ट्रम्प आके आपको कहे कि यू आर रेडी टू किस माई एस, लिटरली हिज वर्ड्स।
Mhm.
तो इसके लिए बचने के लिए ट्रम्प एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ये सोच रही है कि दे कैन स्विच इट ऑन एंड ऑफ, दैट इज देयर मिस्टेक। बट फ्रॉम द प्ले साइड ऑफ थिंग्स, दिस चेस बोर्ड के ऊपर मूव्स बड़ी ऑब्वियस हो गई हैं, दे वर वेरी इंटीग्रेट मूव्स, बट नाउ आई थिंक these all other countries will be forced to sign an agreement with US, restricting the Chinese market, restricting the de-dollarization through BRICS, restricting the currency manipulation of Chinese currency manipulation, and US will tell them what measures they need to take on to achieve that. So this is what it looks like at the, but you know there is a cost to it, as you mentioned. There is a cost. People are the credibility of US is getting affected. The credibility of Trump administration is getting affected. At the same time, there is a chaotic environment. I was amazed to see today the numbers that actually, uh, maybe you would have a better idea, is they're coming from US. The numbers for the consumer activity has gone up considerably because people have started hoarding things up in US, the Target and everybody everywhere else. People have spent a lot of money in last few days to buy things. So it's like,
And you know the reason for it?
yeah, tell me the
Because,
reason.
because you know the storm is coming. This is
Yeah.
exactly pre-COVID thing. Everybody started to actually store the tissue papers. So that's what they're going to do. This is
Toilet
exactly
paper.
the reason. That's not the reason that they're actually supporting Trump by buying more stuff. They know there's a winter coming, so they want to store up. That's what it is.
Correct,
और
correct.
फिर उसके बाद कल को कोई पता नहीं है क्या हो जाए, चाइना के टैरिफ लग जाए तो चीजें पता नहीं कहाँ से कहाँ पहुंच जाए.
लेकिन एक चीज हमें ये समझने की जरूरत है कि जब भी ऐसी चीजें, दैट्स वेयर द कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी लाइज, राइट। अगर आप मुझसे पूछते कुछ 2 दिन पहले या 5 दिन पहले, तो मैं आप मेरी एस्टिमेशन ये थी कि पीपल विल पुल बैक द स्पेंडिंग बिकॉज इन फियर ऑफ रिसेशन, इन फियर ऑफ द मार्केट टर्न डाउन, people would save the money for the rainy day or for the market to crash and find a better time to spend. But actually, consumerism such an addiction कि ये भी ये aspect
That
भी
is
होता
not
है.
addiction. I'm telling you, it's all about safeguarding themselves. Because paisa doesn't have a value. कल को डॉलर मेरा को वर्थ नहीं करता ना. It's a common sense. मेरे पास अगर आज $10 है
तो गोल्ड में
और
बाय कर मैं why don't I buy the gold? Why I have to buy
यार
10
you don't have the
10
money to
covers
buy
for my
gold. It's not about
phone or
saving it.
like
नहीं, you
two
have
cables for the charging
you have to understand
of
it's
my
not about
phone,
actually
right? Or
saving or
maybe
investment. It's about stuff they want to have in their possession on which they can actually rely on. I think your screen is freezing. Your Starlink is again playing up. So let's see. Guys, apologies about that. I think Rana's actually internet is being again frozen. But anyhow, what we are talking up to the point, like when he comes back, I think I'm just going to keep on busting out, like with the tariffs and everything. But this is very unprecedented that, within hours. Another point, like I think while Rana is coming back, I think he's back
yes, I'm
again.
here. I'm
Are you
sorry.
back?
I think yes, I'm back.
So the point you have to understand, like this tariff is not on and off switch. So let me give you a scenario. Like for instance, if China, okay, so China doesn't have like a gas pipeline or electricity wires coming in, or the grid is not connected to the China. It's not like Canada. They can't just simply switch on and off the button of it. When the actual container this gets dispatched from Shanghai and it gets into LA or it comes to New York, how does it come? How long does it take? It takes like minimum 6 weeks to 2 months. So the ship which is going to be docking at New York or LA at the moment, all of a sudden, like tomorrow morning, they have to actually start paying tariffs, 124%, 25%. I mean, you're going to send them the invoice. You're going to say, okay, now you have to actually, this cost you have to pay up till the point when you're going to have your goods. This is exactly what happens, like your customs and duties and everything. Unless you pay them, that stuff doesn't get to you.
Yep.
It doesn't get loaded onto the trucks, those containers. So I simply don't understand that on the operational level how it's going to work out. So if you say that all these containers were coming in, you were sending a message, maybe next morning they wake up like they were in the ship. So they are talking to their freight and forwarder that, okay, how's going to work out? How are you going to actually send this money? Now this container which used to cost like about $100,000 now is going to cost about $250,000. So $150,000
But
being
after
actually.
2 hours, the next day, it is back to about $24,
Yeah,
right?
so on operational level, I don't know how these guys have actually even thought about it, or they have in their mind कि यार अच्छा हाँ कल तो हम 2 घंटे के बाद जो मार्केट्स को हमने चढ़ाना है उसके ऊपर अगेन $2 trillion ऐड करना है तो हम जनाब टैरिफ को रिकॉल कर लेंगे.
I think it would be very interesting metric to see कि अभी तक वो कौन सी ऐसी गुड्स हैं जो अमेरिका में लैंड हुई है जिन्होंने अनफॉर्चुनेट गुड्स थी और अनफॉर्चुनेट बिजनेस folks who had to pay 125% tariff on Chinese products while like their ships are on the way, the ships are almost going to be anchoring, LA or New York. So it's been very interesting metric to see actually how much of these goods have actually been affected. पता ही चलेगा कि भी कल अगर चाइना के टोन नीचे हो जाती है and then they have a negotiation, so it looks like maybe there was not a single item that landed on US soil that paid 125%. So far, everything was in the process because things are happening so fast that maybe there's no effect. And I think that's why Trump administration has been
No,
very
there is an
agile.
effect. Let me tell you, there is an effect. About 2 days ago, I wanted to actually have some. I'm talking about like not a bigger order, like it was something like $20,000. Okay, so I'm just giving you a ballpark figure. So
Mhm.
I contacted. I've been in talks like for almost a week. So I approached this guy. I shopped around. Finally, I got the quotation. Now the quotation, like that was 48 hours ago, like when the quotation came in for the product I actually ordered, that was like roughly anywhere between 18,000 to $20,000. Now the lady told me we cannot give you the final price on the shipping because we don't know.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, my order, like I probably would have actually placed the order, but I could not get the order because the pricing hasn't been given to me that I'm going to actually commit. Now
That's
that's where the tricky situation comes in. I mean, every single day, this is not something, like somebody actually planned it and they just cannot, they can live without the product. It doesn't have to come in. It's so integrated that I need those raw materials or whatever the product I'm ordering, because my cycle is going to actually stop because I cannot place the order. If I place the order, I don't know what's going to happen in the middle, how much is going to cost me more. As I gave you an example, if the container is going to cost me $100,000, now it's going to cost me over $200,000.
no, I get
Am I
that.
gonna get it? I'm not gonna get it, or I'm gonna actually go for substitution. That's the issue.
No, I totally get that. I think what my point is, most of the bigger companies, they actually stopped their shipments. So if you look at Range Rover from UK, uh, Japanese products, Japanese cars, they have actually stopped the supply chain right now. They're waiting for this to settle before they ship any of their cars to US. Like ship means
And add
after.
one more thing. Add one
Yeah,
more thing. Like for instance, last time I gave you an example. Like Target actually has about 25% of the inventory coming from China. Now
yeah,
this is like a major departmental store. Same thing goes for Amazon. Same thing goes for Menards, like about 13%. Same thing goes for Home Depot, which is about 17%. Now that inventory has to revolve. Like you have to actually place the new orders. Now
correct. No, no,
those orders getting
totally get
delays.
that. So
So
I think that gives me the reason why Trump administration is so quick to do these things, because they do not want to affect the actual supply chain on the ground. It is their, maybe it is their intention. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that this is what is going to happen, but I think they are very quick to take the कलाबाजी लगा के वो दूसरी तरफ इस वजह से भी जा रहे हैं, because they want to have the minimal effect to the industry locally, so that they can quickly settle this thing. Somebody pointed out that's a very critical, one of the very effective way of dealing with this kind of situation and this kind of adversary in shape of US. The best strategy is to slow down. You know, that's what Canada did, and Canada has been successful in that approach. They have been deliberately, they slowed down in this negotiation, because the reason is that if the Trump administration goal is to resolve it quickly by grabbing your throat and forcing you and squeezing you and calling you names, rattling you so that you bounce back quickly and tell your pain points, cry for it, right? So I think if you slow down, if a country like Canada or China, if they just slow down and take their time in this negotiation or retaliation, I think this will be the more pain point to the US, uh, of course, Trump administration strategy. And that's why they are moving so quickly. Now, let's move on to the next point, which we want to discuss. We saw a humongous market crash, and like everybody was saying, oh oops, like 6 trillion, maybe somebody was saying 8 trillion is lost. And today we saw that the market bounced back. I think this was the one of the best day in the stock market last 15, 16 years. I think that
I,
that is the record.
I told you buy it. I told you buy it. Midday, I was saying put all your chips in, and people double triple their money.
Yes, so now this market bounce back is astonishing. People made the money. There's one conspiracy theory I think we should not miss, and that is because Trump administration is basically surrounded by the oligarchs, by the billionaires. And this could be one of the mechanism that this Trump administration, illegally, of course, trying to compensate these oligarchs by giving them the opportunity to recover their billions of dollars or make billions of dollars overnight in a couple of days. And people have done that. So this is called insider. इसकी जो दूसरी टर्मिनोलॉजी है उसको कहते हैं कि insider trading. तो क्या ये insider trading है? क्या ऐसा आपको, do you think there could be any legal investigation through Congress that they could look into it, that how come this happened so quickly, and are they any beneficiary? Maybe Trump family, maybe the Eric Trump, or you know, Dave, what his name, the other Don Trump. They are the beneficiary, or Jared Kushner is the beneficiary.
Yeah, look, first of all, you have to understand. I mean, the market shakeup at such a scale, you know, if they made like, let's say, $2 billion, okay, so
Each,
would it worth to actually shake up the market to, as compared to $2 trillion, that which is I'm gonna benefit $2 billion? Um, I mean, there are some definitely beneficiaries, that's for sure, and you can see the pattern. I mean, this is not just something which we say, okay, this happened out of a blue. You could see that Trump ultimately, how it's going to pan out is Trump is going to start to negotiate. हमें पता था, मतलब कोलंबिया की एग्जांपल है, मैक्सिको की है, कनाडा की है, निगोशिएशन ऑलरेडी हुई है ना अभी पिछले 1.5 महीने के अंदर। वो निगोशिएशन कैसे हुई है? ऐसे ही हुई है। उसने कहा मैं जहाज भेज रहा हूँ, उसने कहा अच्छा नहीं तो वापस ले जाओ, उसने कहा अच्छा मैं 50% टैरिफ लगा रहा हूँ, उसने कहा अच्छा मैं भी अपने जहाज भेज देता हूँ, सॉरी मेरी से गलती हो गई है। Same thing happens with Tudor. Tudor said, "What's going on?" एक phone call के ऊपर, "Okay, I'm gonna delay it for 30 days. I'm gonna delay it for another 30 days." तो negotiations तो होनी है, पर चाइना की तरफ से अभी मैसेज आ गया 4 घंटे पहले के हम भी negotiations के लिए तैयार हैं, and everybody is jumping their chest के यार हाँ देखो हमने चाइना को भी लिटा लिया है। लिटा नहीं लिया है, लेकिन पॉइंट ये है कि there has to be some outcome of it, और मे बी could be outcome of it के अच्छा ठीक है, हम तुम्हें कहते हैं कि यार करेंसी मैनिपुलेशन ना करो, हमें फ्यूचर की गारंटियां दो कि ब्रिक्स को तुम उस तरीके से नहीं लेके जाओगे वगैरह वगैरह। सो स्टॉक मार्केट इज वन थिंग, more deep geopolitics in this whole play is entirely different thing. Yes, some people are going to benefit, some people are just going to say, oh yeah, we missed the boat. Like, we can say that
yeah.
we knew at midday that okay, this is what's happening. I got literally after 2 minutes I had the news when nobody knew it. Like, I mean, you can go onto the Twitter feed and those messages were coming in that Trump is doing it, he's going to take off every single, and then market obviously is going to bounce back because it's a good message. तो मैं उस टाइम अपने सारे चिप्स वहां पे मूव कर देता, मूविंग द चिप, और उस द वेरी सेम मॉर्निंग, मतलब 5 घंटे 4 घंटे पहले everybody is going sell and and then after that, let's say if somebody actually moved their chip 2 hour later, like 2 p.m. let's say, I'm talking about central time, New York time was like let's say 3, उस वक्त क्या था, उसके बाद कर्व स्टैग्नेट कर गई है, उसके बाद थ्रू आउट आपकी क्रिप्टो के अंदर भी और आपके उसके अंदर भी मार्केट के अंदर भी टोटल स्टैग्नेशन। तो उस वक्त अगर आपने मिस कर दिया है तो बहुत से लोग उस वक्त भी मूव किए होंगे, लेकिन वो कहेंगे यार हमने चिप्स मूव करके फायदा क्या हुआ इसका। So yes, there's a truth to this whole thing in terms of making money.
Conspiracy, yeah, of course, we'll
But
call
you have to
it.
understand, these oligarchs doesn't matter. Like in this whole equation, अगर इलॉन को फायदा उसमें नहीं है कि मैंने अपनी चिप्स मूव कर ली है, उस वजह से मैंने कोई $2 बिलियन या $5 बिलियन बना लिए हैं, उसका फायदा इसलिए है कि उसका टेस्ला का स्टॉक रिबाउंड कर गया। That's more of a challenge for him to keep the Tesla up. So
Correct. No, I'm not talking about only Elon Musk. I'm talking about other people. Every person, I think the guard standing outside Trump door is also a billionaire. Everybody, the secretary, the press secretary, she is married to the billionaire. The Harvard lunatic or Ludwig, whatever you want to call it. He's a billionaire. So everybody is almost is billionaire in this. So everybody is part of this oligarchy, which is the fact. Now, how these businessmen have played their lives, this is what it is. They have manipulated the market one way or the other. They are used to it. There's nothing new for them. It would be me or you who would be thinking twice about it, like 2 billion or 1 billion. Even 1 million makes sense for them. You have spent the money, now you need the money payback. Even you get a rupee back at a time, that's also fine. So moving back to from this chaotic market. Just want to share one quick thing. People have used this terminology very often. In the past, that even a dead cat bounce back if you throw it from high enough place. So is this the case? Do Is this analogy gonna hold? Like, it's just a dead cat drop to the ground and bounce back a bit, or is this gonna go back to the?
Yeah, I don't think it's sustainable. If you look at it like over the period of like next 3 months, let's say, if we do the war footing, can US survive without recession if it carries on with the same course? That's the biggest question.
Yeah.
If it can survive, and it can survive, I mean, but it's not about US economy's survival, it's about the actual public opinion. So if the actual hands-off movement, because of the recession, comes out on the street, which is already like about, I mean, the limited, estimation is about anywhere between 3 to 5 million people were on the roads last weekend on Sunday. So if that, just on the actual Trump's policies, they were out. But if that translates into the actual market, like where you have to actually buy this stuff and the prices shoots up, then I mean, I'm not talking about the actual, like major, commodities. I'm talking about like simple, very simple things, what they actually buy in Target and Menards and Home Depot and Walmart and all of those stuff, like is coming from China, and the prices, if go up, then these marketplaces won't be able to actually, take that, push. They have to either decrease their profits. I don't know if they'll be able to actually do that. Otherwise, they're going to pass on that price. Once they pass on, that's going to do harm to the actual consumer. And if how many dedicated mega people are out there who say it doesn't matter what Trump does, and there are like many people out there. Doesn't matter what Trump would do, they would still be like in his favor. But at the same
100%.
time, that's not vast majority of people who actually ultimately is going to start losing jobs. People
Is
are still saying that, okay, I wish we wouldn't have voted for him because they lost their job. I mean, if you are totally blinded that doesn't matter what he does, you're going to be supporting him. Then it's a
This
big
is a
question
cult.
mark in
Of
terms of
course,
the
there is a
analysis.
cult. There's a cult, Trump cult. Like, even Trump, shoots somebody, standing in the Manhattan, and people are not going to believe it. They're going to say it is just a hoax, and they are setting up Trump. So that is totally understandable. But I think what I was trying to highlight previously, that the expectation how this market would react, the expectation how people will react, is very hard to predict. I was trying to point, I think, before I dropped off, that personally I thought that the people would stop. People will say, you know what, I don't need two iPhones. I'm gonna sell this one iPhone and just live with one, or maybe switch to Samsung or Nokia or Huawei, right? But the what is actually happening in the ground is totally different. People have actually bought more iPhones, I think, and kind of hoarding them. Or maybe, there is a possibility that there's a mindset that some people, like, who don't have such huge incomes, they find this as an opportunity. It's like a stock market. So they thought, let's buy the cables and this charging things, because this is gonna like double the price, so I will be able to sell it maybe, you know 80% more, and make 80% in couple of days. So there could be this philosophy, this factor as well from some people.
It
But
is that factor. It's not just
exactly.
about them selling it, but
Yeah.
also you have to understand that not every single person buys new iPhone comes out. People change their iPhone like after 3 years. That's
Yeah.
the average. Okay.
Right.
So the people who actually bought the 14 are thinking that we're going to actually change their phone when the 17 comes out.
Yeah.
That's what the mentality is. But when the 17 comes out, if the price is going to be about $1,600 or $2,000, they are thinking to actually buy 16 because they know that they probably won't be able to actually afford 17. So why not buy 16 right now? So
No,
that's
I
the mentality.
affordability is one factor. I was talking about some other factor. The other factor is that some people are buying these with the intention of selling
Yeah.
it. Like I buy them
That's
and I
too
flip
part
it.
of that deal. Yeah.
Yeah, flip it. So that turned that maybe Target was wondering, okay, you know what? Well, there will be no customer when we open the door tomorrow. They found out there were 1,000 people who want to buy these products. One aspect was consumerism, the mindset of a consumerism. The second mindset could be this flipping this thing and making some bucks. And third mindset, I don't know. Sometimes people just follow the herd. They just, if there are 10 people in the line, 11% will come and just stand in the line without knowing what the line is for. But he's saying maybe there's something valuable here. So this is the point I'm trying to make is the complexity of these actions. Once you throw it in the market, you don't know how things and how the people are going to react to this thing. So these are very three interesting factors which I observed. So I wanted to just share with the audience, and of course, look at your opinion about it. Like, have you felt the same thing? This is what I felt. Okay, so moving on, I think. One thing is very sad, of course, being, and we have seen this since we were kids, that this Gaza issue, I think it is coming to a very, what should I say, sad end, where actually it is lost in this economic chaos. The goal, the you know the voice for Gaza is downgraded. Even if you look at YouTube or some news, nobody's talking about Gaza or what is happening in the Middle East. Everybody's focused on this economic crisis. So unfortunately, Gaza and Middle East is caught in the middle of this economic chaos. What do you think? Are there any chances that any good news is going to come from Middle East, that people who are being, you know, murdered, and there are a lot of casualties happening in Gaza, inflicted by Israel, of course. So is this the pattern that will continue, or is this just a lost cause in the middle of economic crisis? Everybody running for their own, thinking about their belly and how they will survive. You're mute, Khurram.
So basically, it's dependent on two factors. One is Netanyahu, and the other one is the Arab street. So these are the two factors is going to actually play a major role. Now, Netanyahu knows very well that, once he's out of the office or he's like unpopular, I mean, he survived all this, like whatever, since October 6th, he survived all this. And the American administration has actually changed. He knew at one point in time that he's going to be, out of office when, his whole cabinet was against him and all those kind of things. But he survived all that, and yesterday or day before, like he was in the White House also. So his extremist policies are the issue, and he knows that once he's going to be out of office, then he's going to be in jail, and that's where certain things needs to happen. Like, I mean, Trump wasn't the person who's be able to actually, convince him. I mean, you cannot have the convincing bit. It's only the American opinion which is going to ultimately change things. And the second is the Arab street. Now, if things are pushed towards that they are forcibly removed from Gaza, and that's what the plan is for Netanyahu, that might as well. And if they're not going to be removed from right now, they're never ever going to be removed. And that's what the Netanyahu is pitching, that this is the unique opportunity for them to. Doesn't matter what's happening, you're turning a blind eye. The whole world is now into this economic mess, and as you rightly said, that's like it's a smoke screen when it comes to actually resolving right issues in the Middle East. So this big smoke screen is being created in order to make sure that the people don't look there, and they are in their own, like, whatever physiological needs. So for that matter, now if things gets worse, which are getting worse, like, because nothing is actually flowing into Gaza, because ultimately what's going to happen is, like, you have no medical supplies, no food supply, no water supply, no electricity supply. It's effectively is a cordoned off like big jail, and in that jail there's no supply of food. How these people going to survive? Besides, you are bombing them. So at that scenario, now there are Egypt, Jordan. Now we have seen big agitation in Morocco, for instance. Now that if that happens, then the actual the all the culprits, all the regimes in that region start to get threatened, and that's what been conveyed to Trump, that we cannot afford this. That's why the last time when the ceasefire just about to break, King of Jordan actually said this to Trump, like he was in the White House, and he mentioned that, we cannot afford people on the streets, because once they come, their whole, setup is being actually kind of in jeopardy. So you would see similar sort of situation. What happened in Syria? What happened in Iraq? What happened in Libya? So once you start to destabilize those governments, then U.S. would have a bigger problem, or Israel would have a bigger problem, and that's why they are trying to actually bring in this mixed messaging that, okay, I can even negotiate with Iran. Okay, so here we go. This Iran picture comes into mind, and now just few hours ago, I read that Iran actually transported some of their missile system into Iraq, for instance. So just to propagate things and just to put the pressure. So these kind of things are happening. But I think as far as Gaza is concerned, I think it's a very dire situation. Besides the bombing, it's more so the humanitarian level has gone to the level where they simply don't have anything to eat. And how long can you survive on this? There's no water supply, nothing. So
Terrible.
the
This
whole
is
world is
terrible.
watching.
So imagine that the world, we live in. Like, I have dogs, and if I don't feed my dog, or even if I don't take care of my dog, somebody see my dog injured, I get reported to the humanitarian, pet, there are NGOs that will run to my house and try to sabotage the whole thing, and try to put pressure on me that I'm not taking care of my animals. But look at that, that in front of our eyes, this is happening, and nobody is able to do anything. And I think the situation in US is worse. I'm in Canada, so I feel much more freedom to talk about this thing. But I have heard that in states it's becoming more and more stringent to talk about it. Especially if you are not a citizen of US, people have been arrested, students have been arrested and deported for
Not
no
just citizen, forget about the non-citizens. Even the citizens are considering to deport them.
so
That's what
imagine.
White House. Yeah, the State Department, presser came out, and she said Trump wasn't joking.
Yeah,
So she said that they are finding legal ways to actually deport the
it's all
citizens.
right. The
And
citizen.
I don't know where they're going to deport it to, like maybe El Salvador prisons. And she then clarified that it was like if they are repeated offense, if they made repeated offensive, um, and they've been arrested, then we'll do that. But I mean, what are the precedences in terms of, and they are trying to find the legal ways. But that's why I'm saying the messaging is so important, because if you look at it, doesn't matter where the American citizen is in the world, they would go and get that person out. Like, remember that what happened in Iran after revolution, like in terms of the actual, hostages, same thing happened here, anywhere in the world. So America actually go and get their citizens. Now, if you are actually deporting or like apprehending your citizens and then treating them above the law, that actually sets the precedence in the history of the United States. So this is a message. Now, if that message happened, what the rest of the world is going to get the message. And this messaging is very important in the world of narratives right now, when we are actually living in the world of citizen journalism. So I don't know what they're thinking, but I mean, these are some words is spoken out randomly with the very highest level of office. Sometimes it doesn't give out that message without uh, realizing that what would be the implications of it um, for the US.
Got it. So moving on, a couple of days ago, when I think everybody was reading, the news was very obvious that it's very likely, U.S. moved some bombers to this, send there is an island there in the Middle East near Iran, where they have started moving the B-52 bombers, and it looked very obvious that America is preparing for attack on Iran, and not Iran. I mean, in general, but the nuclear sites. So maybe the potential nuclear sites where they could be, uh, you know, building the nuclear capabilities, or maybe their missile system and whatnot. And then that's what you mentioned, that they are moving some of their artillery to Iraq. So if you know that, I think US knows that about it as well. So they will figure it out. But the unprecedented situation, which I think you also trying to highlight, is that this has never happened. There's some speech is protected in US by the, I think it's First Amendment or like Second Amendment,
Hmm.
that you are um, nobody can stop you of your expressing your opinion. You are free to say whatever you feel like, based by the constitution. And I think if that constitutional right is taken away, then it's a fundamental change. And that's also, this right is being taken away just not for the, it's not a US internal matter. It's some other country called Israel that is far away, and nothing to do directly with the United States, but because Israel has so much influence and lobbying in the American politics, that due to that, the American Constitution is getting violated these days. It's very concerning. I think people are raising voice over this, and they will continue doing that. Now, coming back to Iran, uh, today, I think yesterday, when Netanyahu was in the White House, Trump mentioned that neither Netanyahu nor Trump wants this war with Iran. So that kind of gives a very cryptic message that US is still not confident, and neither is Israel, to take on Iran as of yet. Although they have moved their Eisenhower, I think, what is the name of the warship, which is moving there, of course, for Houthis, also the B-52 bombers and whatnot, but they're still very reluctant to jump onto Iran. What is, in your view, what is stopping? Like, if you ask me, as a guy who is a common Joe, like looking at this situation, I would feel that this is, if playing the devil's advocate, this is the best time for Israel and US to take on Iran. There's no question about it. This is the best time because Iran's proxies are all being damaged. Hamas, Hezbollah, and other organizations, Houthis, are being damaged very severely. So, what is stopping US and Israel to take on Iran, if they are thinking that way?
I don't know if they are actually capable enough to actually do the war footing on this or not, given the whatever the last 2 months. I don't know if there's a Pentagon is actually looking at scenarios being conveyed. This is like I don't know, people trying to find the method behind this chaos or this madness. But I think this is very knee jerk, whatever has been happening. And in this scenario, if you think that, okay, this has been calculated, yes, is Netanyahu is all about like, okay, attack, attack, attack. So this is just a smoke screen, in my opinion. But if somebody has actually done the war footing, it's not just about the actual attacking Iran. It's also about creating an imbalance in Middle East. Historically, since there are revolution is this balance has been created between Iran and Saudi, and that's why Iran has been actually creating all these proxies around Saudis, like effectively cordoning off. You start with Yemen and then start moving upwards to Iraq and then Syria, then Lebanon, then going even in supporting Gaza. So all this circle Iran created over the time, like obviously has been dismantled because of the Syrian government. Bashir al-Assad gone. Iraq is somewhat neutralized, but still they have like some presence over there. Houthis are putting resistance, but at the same time they've been attacked. So Hezbollah is kind of like after Hassan Nasrallah is not really fully functional. So in that scenario, if you take out Iran too, and it's not going to be like as simple as that, like that you are taken out Hezbollah or you taken out Bashar al-Assad, you take out Iranian regime. Um, it would be a long war. You effectively, right now, Iran is not that strong internally. And we have seen very, in the past, Ibrahim Raisi's assassination has gone to a level where, you could not think of it that the Iranian president, and they would just like simply, um, um, you know, keep quiet on this. And before that, the nuclear scientist was taken out, and then Ismail Hania on the foreign land. So those were the major blows like Iran actually sustained, and somewhat to show the world they retaliated. Like those like fireworks you saw a couple of times towards Israel, those were just simply fireworks. Those were not real attacks. So in that scenario, if you neutralize more so Iran, that you're probably going to go in a long war and then provide a strength internally to Iran, because they would get some sort of like a reason to get united internally. And
Mhm.
I'm just doing purely commonsensical analysis of it, which I'm not sure like whether Pentagon is doing it or White House is doing it. But it's a very commonsensical that in terms of like if you do anything, you are actually making a very ruptured government at this point in time, making it stronger. That's one thing. Second thing is that whatever the influence is being created Iran in the region is going to be neutralized big time. That means you are giving a leverage to opposite side, which is obviously Saudi and UAE, and so and it's permanent. That's not something like which you can create. So tomorrow, if MBS says, "Okay, I'm going to be actually rolling another red carpet to President Xi," then you don't have much, chips to play against him. So they are looking from that perspective, or they would look, if they use their common sense, that this would not be in their better interest to kind of destabilize Iran. Now, Iran is on the south, if you look at it like it's Middle East, but on the north and east and west, there are like other powers too. So they have AS400s. Like for instance, if you look at it, S400s, they haven't said that publicly, but Russia moved in when this whole war with Israel was breaking out. So at that time, like actually a couple of batteries were actually moved into the Iran. So if they have S-400s, then how they are planning to actually take out Iran, where they're going to attack, what's going to happen, where the missile is going to land, or they just simply cordon off the Gulf. And if they cordon off the Gulf, how is going to be the oil supply? The moment you actually, there are multiple factors. The moment you actually go into Iran or some sort of escalation has to happen, like oil price is going to go through the roof. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if it affects the oil supply chain or not. So there are like multiple factors that needs to be calculated, and you're not going to be simply going there and coming out, and it's going to be over like a tariff that they're going to come onto the negotiation table. It's going to be a long war.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's a great point. I think the you can start the war, but you cannot end it, right? It's not
Right.
like, as you mentioned, it's not tariff that you're going to switch off. Even tariffs are not that easy. You have triggered the switch and you have triggered the switch off, but the electricity is still running through the circuit because people are charged. People think they have been offended. People think they have been disrespected, including Canada. So I keep bringing Canada in because I live in Canada, and that's why I can talk about it. You won't imagine that how many people are being offended. Like, at the same time, if you look at the number, I think a large majority of tech talent in Canada, they immigrate to Canada, they become citizen here, and their ultimate goal is to move to United States. But all those people have united behind the government, and they have resisted this idea of Canada becoming the 51 state, the biggest state of of the state itself, right? So bigger than the United States itself. So this is very interesting. Now, moving on to the end game, we are seeing this chaos, the smoke screen we talked about in the Middle East, the smoke screen of this economic tariffs. Let's talk about the end game. Who is the real enemy of United States? Like, who US is trying to battle here? Like, is it China? Is it Russia? Is it the global South? Like, what is it that Trump administration is trying to fight back? People have also talking about analyzing the situation that when Pakistan, in Bollywood movies, they say there's a very famous dialogue that Gabbar aa jayega. I mean, there's something the bigger, scary creature will come, and then that creature will eat you, right? And that's why you have to sleep early on time. That's how the kids gonna go to bed. So, what US is trying to do? People are saying that when Trump came in like 3 months ago almost, the economy was doing great. People were mostly happy. There's no shortage of jobs apparently at still that time, and economy was great. So suddenly Trump comes into picture, and he wants everybody to put screws in the iPhone. And there's a lot of memes going around that people, Americans, like hillbilly type people, they are trying to sue the machine and trying to productivity, industrialization. Nobody wants to do those kind of jobs as far as I can feel in the States. Like, people have moved on, right? This is like 30 years ago, 40 years mindset. So what is this that Trump is fighting? Trump is pretending that he's fighting for the American people. American people are going to get affected most. They are losing jobs. The economy is going to slowly go into recession if he did not reverse these tariffs. So what this Trump administration is fighting for? Is it just scary Gabbar Singh that he's saying Gabbar Singh is going to come and eat you all, or like what is that? You're mute.
I think you have to look at it. Last couple of months, it's just he knows that if he misses this period of like 100 days, then he loses this. Then he's going to get into this internal turmoil, which happened last time. So he's going to be fighting with the departments. He's going to be fighting with Congress. He's going to be has to put up with the midterm when he's going to start losing. Republicans going to start losing the seats. So all these kind of things is in play. World is being shaken, and this is like typical of Trump that he's actually shaken. As I said earlier on in the beginning, that he actually threw a stone in the very perfect stable lake, and then now is creating ripples. So this is the time. Now 6 months go by, like let's say July, August. That's when we can safely predict that what's going to be the end game of this. Because right now you can announce all you want, you can say all you want, you can say, okay, I have all these charts of tariffs, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm doing this, I've got the mega movement going on, I've got the dodge in place. I mean, look at where the dodge is. Like, when was the last time in last 2 months you heard about the dodge? That was 2 weeks ago. And at the end of it, you heard that Elon is not going to be actually with me for long. So all these kind of scenarios is kind of like building up. Now, these scenarios not that simple that we can actually predict the end game, but I think there is no end game like being perceived as that. Okay, this is the picture we are looking at. Like, when you are in a Pentagon, in CIA, or in the State Department, there's a big table, there's a digital board, there's a whiteboard. You actually do the analysis. This is the data come in, and then we say, okay, this is the war footing we are doing. A, B, and C are the outcome of these scenarios, and then contemplate, ponder, and then you say, okay, this, if we do this, this is going to happen. If we do this, this is going to happen. So you have like this yes and no pie chart, or like yes and no DFD. Now, in this This whole chart is in Trump's head. Is he calculating all that? Like, what's the end game of this? I don't think so. So
Yeah.
if you are trying to get this big question mark answered, I simply do not think that this chart has the capability to have like this is the goal I want to get to, and this is where I am. So what are the paths to actually get there? I do not see that there is that kind of a calculation in Trump's mind that okay, this is by doing this I want to get there. Uh,
So let me interrupt you here. So what is that Gabbar? I mean, let me back to come back to my question. So what is that Gabbar saying that Trump is fighting? Is it the economy? Is it the his own personal ego? Is it Russia? Is it China? Is it just this new world, or is it just he wants to be in the news headlines? Like what he's fighting for? The people are trying to understand. As I said, the economy was doing great. People have jobs. There's still, I think, a lot of workforce which is looking for to be filled. There are jobs, according to Howard Ludwig himself, that there are a lot of opportunities. They need to be filled, and there are nobody to fill them. And at the same time, they have deported like free labor, like cheap labor in troves. Like they had this opportunity. Like as a businessman myself, I think that the most important ingredient of your business is the cheap labor. You know, if you have the cheap labor, you can do miracles. So I think that's what US has been doing historically. That's why US is what US is currently, because they have been this golden opportunity. You have to have cheap labor to build anything.
I,
Cheap labor.
I'll give you. Have you watched Nemo? Nemo, that cartoon movie?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So I don't know if you
I
can
do.
recall it. I think that would be the best answer. So, here is the Nemo who's actually traveling. His father is traveling from, one end of the earth to other end of the world to actually try to get the Nemo back. And the Nemo is in the, aquarium in this dentist office, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so the baby, that Nemo was in the was captured and then taken by the boat, and then that guy sold it, and that ended up in Sydney, in dentist office, where there's an aquarium, and then all these fish are trying to come out of it and then go into the sea, right?
yeah,
So they plan. They say, okay, if the filter stops working, then obviously there's going to be all this mildew is going to actually build up. There's going to be green stuff, and then he has to call somebody to clean it up. So they try to actually stop that. So they put the pebble, and the Nemo can only go through the tunnel into the actual filter. So finally, the Nemo goes in, and then the filter stops working, and then all of a sudden, mildew starts to build up. And this guy says, and the plan was that all the fish is going to be actually put in the actual bag, plastic bag, in the water, and then it's going to be put on the side, and then this aquarium is going to be cleaned, and that was their plan, right? So they all the fish actually goes in that plastic bag, but somehow Nemo actually gets flushed into the actual toilet, right? So Nemo goes in, but the rest of the fishes goes into the plastic bag because they had to clean the aquarium, right? So Nemo goes into the actual because of the flush into the toilet. From the toilet, it goes into the main, in the sea, and then finally meets with the dad and all that. But this rest of the fish actually sits by the window in the bag, plastic bag, and then they try to actually huddle around to move to the window so they can fall down, and then so they started to actually roll over. So when they rolled over all the way, and then finally in the Sydney harbor, they went into in the sea, fell into the sea, but they were still in the plastic bag. So the one of the fish says, "We did all this, but now what? They're still in this plastic bag. They're not in the sea. So after all this, closer to the now what?" So I see this scenario emerging that they reach to some level where all these tariffs happen, now this escalation happen, now they have negotiation happen. Now what? Because they don't have the end game in mind. So I
correct.
think it's now what is going to come up at some point in time when everybody is going to ask themselves, We've done all this. Recession happened or not, market's gone up or down, doesn't matter. But now what? So
Excellent. I think that was a great analogy, Khurram. Thanks for joining. I think it's pretty late here in North America. I'm from Toronto. This is Rana, your host, and Khurram Zubairi from Chicago. Thank you so much for watching us. Please subscribe to us, or you can go to YouTube and see the shorts, and we take some important parts of the discussion and put it out there. Comment, share, and like, and we keep doing this thing. So until next time, take care and do not be scared. The world is not going to crash. If just keep your sanity, and you will be good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Khurram. Have a good night and good morning, guys. Take care. Bye.